This is archinstall plus. It's a very short, about 200 line bash script that you can use in addition to the already existing archinstall to have a nice fresh starting point for your new Arch installation. And you can fork it, you can change the packages it installs. It's something that you can really make your own. And it includes some baseline dot files to get you started so you don't have to be in a bare bones terminal emulator. Now, as the name implies, this is really meant to be used as an additional script to Arch install. So here I have a fresh VM with just the Arch Live ISO. So if I run Arch install, and I'm going to skip most of this, but basically just keep in mind whenever you're running Arch install, there's a couple things that you want to make sure you check. You're going to want to go through all these steps and make sure everything's up to your own liking. But it's very important that under authentication, you set up a user account. For example, I'll just put in Landon, password. And you also want sudo, and then add user. I guess we already did that. Confirm and exit. And then you also want to make sure that under network configuration, you copy the ISO network config. And this will make it so that when you boot into your actual Arch install, you will already have your networking set up. So after going through all the settings, I'm going to go ahead and install this. Okay, after we are in our fresh install, we're just going to log in. And then what I'm going to do first is install Vim or Nano and also Git, because we're going to be cloning the project files with Git. Okay, now that we have Git, we can go ahead and git clone the repo. And the repo will be cloned as AIP, but you could just rename it if you want. For example, I call mine dotfiles because this is where the dot files will also be stored. And then once you're in here, all you got to do is run the setup script, and you should be able to run it. If it's not letting you execute it, you might have to chmod it, but we're just going to go ahead and hit enter. Now, you'll notice the script is installing a lot of things. I think that's like 16 gigabytes worth of packages, but I have a lot of things you might not need in there. So it's worth coming into the script here and just going to this big old array of packages. For example, you might not need Obsidian. I use that for taking notes. You might not need OBS Studio or Spotify, Blender, Godot, and I believe LibreOffice takes up a lot, but some of these are kind of essential. Like I wouldn't touch any of these packages up here really. But once we get down to like the Firefox area, some of these are pretty optional. And if there's a dependency like this font should be used for Steam, I try to comment that. A lot of this is Hyperland stuff, so I wouldn't touch it. But of course, if you want to use like a different terminal emulator, of course you could edit that here and then update the dot files for say Hyperland. And I tried to do as many settings, tweaks, and configs that you would find on the Arch Wiki, such as starting some services for like networking and Bluetooth. And all this right here is for setting up printers, so you should be able to find your printers on your network and stuff like that. We also install Yay for AUR packages, but as I say in the comments here, I don't actually install any packages in here because Yay is technically like user scripts. So you might want to be a little bit more cautious there, but it should be fine. We also set you up with a free wallpaper, and it tells you where it goes, so you can just rename the file to something else you want, and you'll have a different wallpaper. Okay, so you can see after running through all that, we actually have a finish time down here. It took about 24 minutes. Now, before launching like Hyperland or anything like that, what you're going to want to do is we're going to do the GNU stow, which will basically symlink all the dot files. So if I do an LSA here, you can see there's actually a .config, and in the config is we have Electron and Chromium flags for Wayland, and then we have our Hyperland configs, the Kitty configs, and the Waybar configs. So it's important that you do it from the like top directory of the Git repo right here. So as long as you can see like setup.sh, you can do it here. And I'm going to do, I believe it's stow period. And this is also on the GitHub page. And then you see it's done. So you'll see if I ls all here. So this is my home directory. In config here, you see we have our Chrome and Electron flags. And we also have a hyper directory here. And if you want to edit these, you could edit them here, or you can also just go to the what I call .files directory, and you can go into the config here, Hyperland, and then we can also just vim into Hyperland. And you can see here's all the settings. And if you change them in the .files folder, it'll update in your actual config folder because they're just symlinked, and you can do the opposite too. So just going to quit out of that. So now that we have our config files symlinked, we can go ahead and launch Hyperland. I forgot to change something. Now, this is a little silly, but you'll notice I have in my own GitHub repo a warning that because I'm using a 2-in-1 tablet, the default config rotates it by 270 degrees. So this is a great test to get you comfortable with editing your configs. So let's just cd into .files, cd into config, hyper, and then we will vim hyperland, search for transform, and you'll see basically all we have to do is just cut this off because we're not going to be transforming our screen. And because I want the scaling to be a little less aggressive, I'm going to change this to 1.25. Save that, and then run Hyperland again. It's hard to spell Hyperland. And there we go. And we might want to do a reboot because I believe there's some missing things up here. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so I just did a reboot. And another thing I'm going to do, you do not have to do this, but because I have this installed in a VM, I have to add something to my config real quick. Basically, I have to add this little env flag. And this should allow me to run the Kitty terminal in my virtual machine. So start Hyperland up again. You can see those icons are fixed. And if I do super plus enter, we are in the terminal. And you can see here, we have a very bare bones Hyperland setup. This is a way bar at the top here. You can edit your audio stuff by clicking up here. You have like IP info, and I also have the keyboard stuff set up so you can set up a Japanese, I believe it's IEM input. So you do have to do this manually, just right click, configure, and then add this Moz here. And when you do that, it's a little bit laggy in the VM, but you can see here it is, and I believe I can open this. Let's see, well, it does take it. So yeah, you can do test. Look at that. Command not found. How cool is that? But yeah, that's basically it. And if there's something you don't like about the script, you can just cd into the .files and you can vim edit setup.sh. You can remove any packages you might not need and add anything that you think might be missing. And yeah, that's about it. So if you like this video, please leave a like. If you have any thoughts or comments, leave them down below. And if you find any bugs or have any suggestions, please do a pull request on the GitHub repo. I've never really done pull requests before, but if it's something simple, I'll try to add it to the project. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.